When you beat Bayern Munich 3-0 at home to go 5 points clear at the top of the Bundesliga, and not only that, but you're the only unbeaten team in Europe, you're doing it in a way which seems so innovative, so original, on less of a budget than the other side, on less of a hegemony than the other side, on so much less expectation than the other team. There's something special, and you should be discussing that, right? This is Xabi Alonso here in his first real managerial gig, like, you know, in terms of the top level, doing something which a lot of other managers struggle to do, which a lot of other institutions struggle to do. He picked up this team from second bottom in the Bundesliga and has made them into a competing, and I want to say competing rather than say they've already won it, but a competing side, a team that are very competitive. And again, on multiple fronts. The multiple fronts, by the way, not being the same as Bayern Munich's multiple fronts, and I think that's partly what I want to talk around here. A lot of people are talking about Xabi Alonso's big Liverpool audition, or talking about how Alonso has always been wanting to do it with Liverpool. Let's just live in the moment a little bit in this footballing world, and I get it, Liverpool have to look forward at the moment, and I get it. Even the title of this video, and even everyone else's titles around every video, has to be about what Xabi Alonso will bring to Liverpool, and sure, I'm going to do lots of that on this channel. And he has just beaten Bayern Munich 3-0, which is really impressive. But the point being, right, give the man a moment to be this man. Allow people to be something and build themselves up in their own right. I get that we want to own this, and I get that we have to, shroud everything in the red of Liverpool at some point. But also just appreciate what these people are and what they bring to the club in the first place. When Klopp arrived at Liverpool, what he bought was something that was very continental. It was very different to what we were used to at the time at Liverpool, and we embraced it. We didn't go, of course there were loads of factors that made Klopp very Liverpool and Liverpool very Klopp, but there were loads of other things which we were willing to embrace, which we were looking to embody ourselves, that we didn't have at the time as a club. The same when Rafa Benitez arrived, the same when Gerard Houllier arrived. There were lots of things that we were looking internally at the club for that weren't there. And these people helped bring them. Houllier helped bring a continental vibe to Liverpool that we previously kind of lacked and we weren't really looking for. And I get it, we love the identity that the whole boot room brought to Liverpool, all the way from Shankly, through Paisley, through Fagan, through Moran, through Evans. I'm sure there are names that I've missed out in there as well, but I'm speaking about the big figures at the club, through Doug Leash, obviously, who was part of the boot room as well, through Souness, and obviously through people like Phil Thompson, and there are plenty of other people in there in that time. But you get what I'm saying? He brought us into the continental 21st century. Not that Liverpool were lacking, but there was a lack of competition at Liverpool. And that changed the club fundamentally. It kind of primed us for the Rafa Benitez era, and it kind of primed us to be ready for what it was that we needed to do to catch up to everyone else, at least at that point. Then Rafa Benitez came in. Brilliant. Then in came, well, it wasn't so good after that. But, then we go into the Ken Dalglish era, we go into the Brendan Rodgers era. Brendan Rodgers, I'm not quite sure what Brendan Rodgers, I know he brought other stuff to the club. He kind of brought a weird... we were living in the moment, not really thinking about where we were going next. There was a desperation just to get back to a title. And then we got into the Klopp era. And getting into the Klopp era felt very past, present, and future. And we kind of want a manager that's going to bring back that vibe, right? Houllier felt that way, Benitez felt that way, Klopp felt that way. Alonso kind of feels that way. He's reinvigorated a club at Leverkusen. He's made them into something which feels, they were so close. They were so close to getting relegated, but they're also so close to being one of these big sides. They've always been on the precipice of doing something big, but it's been a while since they've done something big. He gave them a new identity. He gave them a footballing way. He gave them something which they hadn't had in quite some time. And now, in the moment, he is doing something brilliant. And what I'm just wondering about that is, I guess I'm not raising doubts, but I'm kind of saying, what should we be careful of here? What is it that we should watch out for when analysing Alonso? Well, a lot of managers have tactics and develop tactics which are very of the moment, right? Which work so well, but when they come up against brilliant tactical managers, then, well, they can be found out. Now, Thomas Tuchel is no slouch in this area. Thomas Tuchel almost won the Champions League exclusively through out-managing other managers one-to-one, making his team very difficult to beat. Resilience, mental fortitude, all these kind of things were things that he was very good at instilling in that moment. It didn't last, but it was in that moment, in that Chelsea team. He clearly hasn't done that with this Bayern side. This Bayern side actually collapsed against this Xabi Alonso side. And broadly, like, there aren't really many other challenges. Stuttgart are about 15 points off the top. In fact, exactly 15 points off the top at time of recording. Munich have not been the team that they need to be. They've just put in Eric Dyer at the start of January. No disrespect to Eric Dyer. I'm sure he is a fantastic player and I'm sure he brings something big to the club. But they've got Kim and Upamecano in the back there. Like, those are two of the best centre-backs, if not the two best centre-backs in European football outside of the Premier League, and possibly even competitive within the Premier League. What Xabi Alonso did was undermine a system to such a degree that they felt like they had to match up to Xabi Alonso and Bayer Leverkusen. Within that, they tried to shut down a lot of what Leverkusen do. They played a back three, cool. They stopped them trying to go hard left, so then they could go hard right and switch out. Didn't quite work because at one point they just switched off and in goes the right back to score Leverkusen's first goal. They tried to they didn't even try to congest the midfield. They actually just tried to make that back three gel with the midfield of Bayern, and it didn't quite work. And they weren't quite able to find those passing lanes to undermine the Leverkusen press, which, by the way, worked really well. And on top of that, they didn't really manage to cut out a lot of what Alonso was trying to do. He then, at 2-0 up, just transitioned to being a defensive side, brought on some of the players that I'd imagine that Tuchel and Munich were anticipating he would originally play, and just shut the game down. They suddenly had a back six, and Munich were 2-0 down. The phase of play at that point, or the phases of play, were well beyond what Munich were trying to do, and the game state was very much in Xabi Alonso's favour. Alonso exhibiting a lot of what modern coaches look to do: manage games out of the opposition's hands and give them the control, give them the settling feeling that they needed to just cruise to a win against Munich. By that point, Munich hadn't really had that many opportunities, though, again, I think judging sides by shot count is probably a little bit weird in modern European football. You can have a lot of shots and not win a game. You can have very few shots and still win a game. It's not really a great way of judging whether a team has played well, but one shot on target was Munich's all-time season low. So there is a metric there, but I'm not sure. It indicates that they'd limited them, but at the same time, let's not pretend like Munich created nothing in this game. Creating half chances, creating shots off target, all those kind of things, they probably seem like just as good a metrics to judge whether a team are doing well or not. Alonso's side just were very solid defensively. They barely looked like they were getting out of first or second gear against this Munich side. And when they turned it up, they really turned it up against Munich. Now, again, there's going to be a lot of people that go, well, if you can take on Bayern, then you can take on Man City, or you can take on Arsenal, you can take on whoever. You can revolutionise a side. You've clearly come in and been able to imprint your own style of football, invigorate those players, make them feel invested in what it is that you're playing. Elements of that will play very well in the Premier League, but you're coming in against Pep Guardiola and an institution at this point that is that is City, not Bayern Munich. Undermining a big institution such as Bayern Munich is a big thing. He did it on a very small fraction of the budget that Munich have had. He did it after Munich have just been dominant for a whole load of years, undermining Dortmund year after year after year. I will remind you, Dortmund also had somewhat of a positive lead at this point and were leading throughout the season against Munich last season, with Jude Bellingham playing particularly good football. They weren't quite playing the same replication of football. Like, actually, I think what Xabi Alonso here has got something that you can replicate and you can kind of just play with. But still, they were playing something that you could kind of go, hey, like, that's very similar to what's going on there. We still have to get through to the end of the season here. There is still a long way to go in this season, and it's only a 5-point difference. That's a 2-game swing. Whilst it doesn't look like Munich might turn it around at this point, and it does look as if those guys are struggling for somewhat of their own identity, which again is contributing to somewhat of what Xabi Alonso's lead is at this point, we still have a title race on our hands. The point being, undermining City is very different to undermining Munich. City have an identity that they will have for the next few years, which is why people are talking about a buffer zone of a manager for Liverpool. Does Alonso want to be that guy? Well, guess what? If he takes the managerial job, boy, does that show some balls. Boy, does that show that he is confident in what he can achieve at any club. But if he doesn't, I also understand it. You want to see where the chips are going to fall when Liverpool have rolled the dice, or Klopp has rolled the dice with Liverpool and made Liverpool make decisions that possibly they didn't think were coming for another couple of years. If they do that, then I would very much think that Liverpool go for a Thomas Frank, someone else who can be a manager that can build, but also give the next manager a good bed to fall into, shall we say. With that, I wouldn't judge Xabi Alonso if he didn't take the Liverpool job. Leverkusen are currently in Europe, but not in the Champions League. They're not the very top tier of European football, so they are competing on multiple fronts, but not nearly at the difficulty that the Champions League will bring. It's very competitive still, but Alonso has quality within that team. Now, here's the other aspect, right? Alonso, when he entered the side, most people would have said, well, this team doesn't have the quality. Actually, they would have said this team has the quality to compete at the very top level. It's just they weren't being maximised. But they wouldn't have said you can win the league or compete in the Champions League with this team. They would have thought they were good, but not this good. They would have thought they were consistent or had the capability to be consistent, but not this consistent. And the few pieces that he's added have made them more consistent. The times he's coached players up, similar to what Klopp has done, show that he could possibly do a similar thing at Liverpool. What could he do with a Harvey Elliott if Harvey Elliott wasn't to leave Liverpool in the summer because he wants more football somewhere else, say, or whatever, right? What could he do with a Szoboszlai if he doesn't leave because, maybe he was convinced by Jurgen Klopp? What can he do with a McAllister who can be a bit of a 10, but can also, can he be one of those wide players in the Alonso system? Can he be one of those players who plays on the inside and facilitates those wide players? What could Diaz do in this kind of system? What could Robertson do in this kind of system? What could you see Conor Bradley doing? What could you see another right back doing in this system? What could you see Trent doing in this system with a back three just behind him? Is Trent suddenly part of that back three? Is Trent really press resistant enough to be part of that back three? Do Liverpool currently have a back three? Well, could you see Konate, Van Dijk and, say, a Quansah? Could you see Gomez, Van Dijk and, say, a Konate there? There are plenty of different options out there, should we say, for Liverpool. But what I'm saying, and could you see Alisson staying? Could you see Nunez playing as part of that front line, a facilitator alongside those other two? Could you see a Cody Gakpo? Yes, this team looked like they could very much play in the shape of a Xabi Alonso team. But then a lot of sides in Europe look like they could play that way right now. A lot of people are moving in that facilitative role. Could Munich themselves be looking at Xabi Alonso and offer Xabi Alonso a gig which he possibly wouldn't get if he doesn't do well or as well as he should at Liverpool? The point being, there are plenty of different options right now for Alonso, and Alonso would almost be silly to take this Liverpool gig. What I'm saying is, there are also elements of risk for Liverpool within this. Alonso has proven himself with this system, but if another manager finds a way to undermine this system in a way that we've seen with Klopp, then can he move out of that? If he's in a chokehold, can he get out of that? If someone's in a half dominant position against Alonso, can he think his way out of that? Or is this just a flavour of the moment kind of thing? And also, I get it, you can coach players, you can make them better, and maybe he's got the next iteration of this system already in his mind. Very often managers do. In fact, he played a variation against Munich. But the point being, Alonso is a fantastic manager. He's also experiencing a very good moment right now. If we were to go for a Frank, someone who's proven in the Premier League, if we were to go for a De Zerbi, if we were to go for a Postecoglou, someone who's almost more proven in the Premier League at this point, would it almost be more beneficial to Liverpool to have a bit of just Premier League time and allow Alonso to go elsewhere? It looks as if Alonso wants to manage Liverpool in the long term. Maybe, this Liverpool gig is one where you go, look, you got to take it now, because if we fall away and then we don't have the same resources, you won't be able to come in and do those same things. Come in and do something brilliant like you did at Leverkusen. Do you get what I'm saying? At the same time, I just want to know what you guys think. How would you see this Liverpool 11 setting up? I will be doing that video very soon. I want to see people's suggestions in the comments below. But also, who would you see staying? Who would you see leaving? Because people will want to stay and leave based on whether Klopp is at the club or not. And if we don't get Alonso, do you see more people staying, more people leaving? Do you see people disinvesting from the project, all these kind of things? I'd be interested to know what you guys think. I personally feel very positive about Liverpool's future. I think Klopp has set Liverpool up very well. I think Liverpool have set themselves up very well. But we're going to see a lot of change at this club very soon. And at times, just feels as if the balance isn't quite there since that loss to Arsenal and obviously the announcement of Klopp leaving. We're going to see a lot of rumblings between now and the end of the season. I hope this is the honest place that you come for that kind of analysis. Appreciate you guys, and I will see you again real soon right here on the Laurence McKenna channel. Much love.